President-elect Trump's potential approach to tariffs is generating a lot of buzz in the global markets. His stance seems softer than many anticipated.
Is this a genuine shift or a strategic move for future negotiations? He does have a history of using strong rhetoric as a bargaining chip.
It seems Japanese businesses, particularly those focused on exports, are banking on a less restrictive trade environment with the U.S. The Nikkei jumped after the news broke.
What about the impact on the U.S. dollar and, of course, other major currencies? We saw some initial volatility, but has that stabilized?
The dollar did weaken initially, but regained some ground. The euro and the pound saw gains before settling down. I guess those mixed reactions really highlight the uncertainty surrounding Trump's trade policies.
Do you think these market movements are solely due to the potential tariff shift? Or are there other global economic factors at play contributing to the volatility?
Analysts like Kun Go from ANZ are pointing to the unpredictable nature of Trump's trade policies. They emphasize his history of striking deals even after taking a hard line initially.
So this potential for deal-making is fueling cautious optimism in the markets.
It seems so.
The Eurozone is waiting for inflation data this week. How could that impact the European Central Bank's interest rate decisions? And what about the overall economic outlook for Europe?
If inflation comes in hotter than expected, it could push the ECB to raise rates. That could slow down economic growth in Europe and ultimately ripple out to the global economy.
The U.S. also has some key economic data releases coming up this week, including the December non-farm payrolls report. That will give us a glimpse into the health of the U.S. job market. How do you think this data might influence the Federal Reserve's potential easing cycle?
The market seems to be anticipating a less aggressive approach from the Fed than initially predicted. It suggests a certain level of confidence in the U.S. economy's ability to weather potential headwinds.
And then there's the political landscape. The Canadian dollar rallied after Prime Minister Trudeau announced he's stepping down. Do you think this transition could usher in new economic policies for Canada?
It certainly adds another layer of uncertainty to the global economic picture. The implications for the Canadian economy under new leadership are yet to be seen.
Beyond currencies, what about commodities like oil and gold? Are there any noticeable trends that might reflect the overall global economic sentiment?
We're definitely seeing fluctuations in oil and gold prices, which often act as barometers of global economic sentiment. That volatility just underscores the uncertainty surrounding various geopolitical and economic factors.
This potential shift in Trump's tariff approach is particularly interesting. Let's dig a little deeper into the specifics. The Washington Post report suggested his team is considering targeted tariffs. Which sectors might those tariffs focus on? And how do they differ from his earlier campaign promises?
The report suggests these targeted tariffs would focus on sectors considered vital for national or economic security. That's a departure from the broader campaign trail promises of sweeping tariffs on all imports. The report indicated these tariffs would apply to all countries, but only certain sectors.
How did the markets initially react to this news of a more targeted approach? Was there a noticeable shift in sentiment compared to reactions to his earlier, broader tariff proposals?
It initially triggered a positive reaction from the markets. Investors seemed to prefer the predictability of targeted tariffs over the uncertainty of widespread tariffs.
But then President-elect Trump denied the report on Truth Social. What impact did that denial have on market sentiment? Did it completely wipe out the initial positive reaction, or was there a more nuanced response?
His denial on Truth Social definitely injected a level of uncertainty. This back and forth just emphasizes the challenges in predicting his trade policies. His past actions show a willingness to strike deals even after initially taking tough stances.
Do you think this potential for deal-making is offering any reassurance to the markets? Despite the uncertainty surrounding his pronouncements, are investors factoring in his history of negotiation when assessing the potential impact of his policies?
Global markets do seem to be factoring in this unpredictability. They recognize that things can shift quickly, and it's all happening against a backdrop of significant global economic change and uncertainty.
Let's go back to those other major global economic events we talked about. The upcoming inflation data from the Eurozone could really sway the ECB's interest rate decisions. Could you break down the potential scenarios and their respective impacts on the European economy?
If inflation stays high, the ECB might have to keep raising rates. That could push the Eurozone into a recession. If inflation starts to cool down, however, the ECB might be able to hit pause on its rate hikes. That would offer some relief to the European economy.
Here in the U.S., we have those crucial economic data releases this week, including the December non-farm payrolls report. It'll be a key indicator of the U.S. job market's health. How do you expect the markets to react to different outcomes?
A strong jobs report would likely boost market confidence. It would signal a resilient U.S. economy. A weak report, on the other hand, could raise concerns about a potential slowdown, which could impact the Fed's policy decisions.
The Fed's potential easing cycle is another thing market observers are focused on. The market's anticipation of a less aggressive approach than initially predicted suggests some level of confidence in the U.S. economy. What factors do you think are contributing to this confidence?
The recent easing of inflationary pressures and the continued resilience of the U.S. consumer seem to be factors.
The Canadian dollar rallying after Prime Minister Trudeau's resignation announcement has definitely added another wrinkle to the global economic picture. This development throws some uncertainty around the future direction of the Canadian economy. What are some of the key factors that could shape the Canadian economy under new leadership?
The new leadership's stance on fiscal policy, trade agreements, and energy policy will definitely be key factors. Their approach to attracting foreign investment and managing government debt will also play a significant role.
These interconnected events really highlight the complex nature of the global economic landscape, and the fluctuations in oil and gold prices further underscore that point. These commodities often act as gauges of global economic sentiment. Their volatility reflects the uncertainty surrounding various geopolitical and economic factors.
The potential shift in President-elect Trump's tariff approach remains a key area to watch. Its potential impact on global trade dynamics remains to be seen.
Analysts will be closely monitoring President-elect Trump's actions and statements for further clues, and global markets will likely react accordingly.
The interconnectedness of global markets means that events in one region can ripple across the world. The interplay of these various economic and political factors will continue to shape the global economic landscape in the coming months and years.
It's a dynamic and complex situation with a lot of moving parts.
It will be fascinating to see how these various factors evolve and interact. The potential impact on global growth, trade, and investment is significant.
It is a time of great uncertainty, but also a time of great opportunity.
It will be interesting to see how these events unfold.
The global economic landscape is constantly changing. It requires careful monitoring and analysis. The decisions made by policymakers and business leaders will have far-reaching
The
consequences.
stakes are high.
The world is watching. It really makes you wonder, will this softer approach even be enough to deal with the trade tensions between the U.S. and its major trading partners?
It's a big question. This potential shift in tariff approach has major implications for businesses all over the world. Imagine if you're a business owner in tech. How would these targeted tariffs impact your supply chain or your ability to compete globally?
There's a lot on the line for businesses in sectors that could be affected by these tariffs. They'll need to really scrutinize their supply chains, maybe look at different sourcing options, and be prepared for possible price hikes.
So what's your advice for businesses trying to navigate this uncertain trade environment? Should they just wait and see what happens, or should they be proactive and adjust their strategies now?
It's definitely a tricky time, but it's also a time where opportunities could emerge. The businesses that can adapt quickly and position themselves strategically will be the ones best equipped to succeed in this evolving landscape.
It's true. The global economic landscape never stands still. How can people stay informed and make smart financial decisions with all this volatility?
It takes keeping a close eye on things and really analyzing the information. People should stay up to date on global economic trends, maybe consult with financial advisors, and think about diversifying their investments to manage risk.
And of course, the decisions made by policymakers and business leaders have a huge impact. How can everyday citizens engage in productive dialogue and advocate for policies that promote stability and growth?
The stakes are incredibly high. It's crucial for citizens to engage in informed discussions, participate in the political process, and hold their elected officials accountable for making decisions that benefit the country's long-term economic well-being.
The whole world is watching, and the interconnectedness of global markets means that what happens in one place can have a ripple effect everywhere else. This mix of economic and political factors will continue to shape the global economic landscape for months and years to come.
Absolutely. It'll be fascinating to see how all these different factors play out and interact. The potential shift in President-elect Trump's tariff approach is definitely something to keep an eye on.
Analysts will be watching his actions and statements closely, looking for clues, and the global markets will probably react to whatever he does.
It's a fluid and complex situation with a lot of moving parts.
It'll be interesting to see how things unfold. The Canadian dollar's rally after Prime Minister Trudeau's resignation really adds another layer of complexity to the global economic picture. This throws uncertainty around the future direction of the Canadian economy. What are some key factors that could shape the Canadian economy under new leadership?
The new leadership's stance on fiscal policy, trade agreements, and energy policy will definitely be key factors. Their approach to attracting foreign investment and managing government debt will also be significant.
These events really highlight how intricate the global economic landscape is, and the fluctuations in oil and gold prices further underscore that. They often act as barometers of global economic sentiment. Their volatility reflects the uncertainty around all these geopolitical and economic factors.
The potential shift in President-elect Trump's tariff approach is still a key area to watch. Its impact on global trade dynamics remains to be seen.
Analysts will be watching President-elect Trump's actions and statements for clues. Global markets will likely react to whatever he does.
The interconnectedness of global markets means events in one region can ripple across the world. This interplay of economic and political factors will continue to shape the global landscape in the coming months and years.
It's a dynamic and complex situation with a lot of moving parts.
It'll be fascinating to see how these various factors evolve and interact. The potential impact on global growth, trade, and investment is significant.
It is a time of great uncertainty, but also a time of great opportunity. It'll be interesting to see how these events unfold.
The global economic landscape is constantly changing. It requires careful monitoring and analysis. The decisions made by policymakers and business leaders will have far-reaching consequences.
The stakes are high.
The world is watching.
Until next time, goodbye.